Hi guys, Patrick from Santa Barbara English. Today's video is about the word like. Now, we use the word like too much in English. It's a daily life word, it's in every conversation, and it's used in several different ways. So, the first thing I want to mention about the word like is that this is communication, okay? This is not vocabulary. Now, I mentioned in my communication video, which I hope you've seen, when you learn vocabulary, you learn a new word, and you can use that word right away. Okay, so for example, this is a compass. Okay, you might not know this word. This is a compass. I have a compass. When I go hiking, I bring my compass. Many people carry a map and compass. Okay, compasses are very useful. Compass, compass, blah, 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 blah. If that's a new word for you, you can write down compass, C-O-M-P-A-S-S, and you can use that word starting today. Okay, that's a new word in your vocabulary. Communication is a little different because you're teaching something like, you're teaching something that's not exactly a word, and it's a little bit difficult to use right away in the beginning. So today's lesson is a communication lesson about the word like. So if it's a little bit confusing, or at the end of the video you don't feel like you can 100% do this, that's okay. You're not supposed to do it 100%. You're supposed to now understand it, and then when people say it, you understand what they mean, and then you start to use it. Okay? So that's my warning. So, like. Like has several meanings in English. For example, we use it as a verb, right? Everybody knows this. I like cheese. She likes him. I like you. It's very simple. Like. We also use like to mean similar to, like niteru or mitai. So you can say, you look like your sister, or your sister looks like you. Onei-san mitai, right? You can say, ukulele is like a small guitar. So ukulele wa nanka chisai guitar mitai. Okay? So similar to. Okay? Southern California is like Australia, something like that. We also use like just as a pause with no real meaning. Just when we're talking and we think like, okay? So let's meet at like 3. Let's meet at 3. Let's meet at 3. So we use it as the same as we would use or etto toka. Okay. Do you want to see a movie, or like maybe go shopping, or like blah 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 blah. Okay? So we have 3 definitions of like so far. All right. The next way we use like. We use this for you mean. Like sorete, when we're having a conversation and I want to check what the other person said. Okay? So let me give you some examples. The first one is, if I'm talking to my friend and I say, you know John? John, like, oh, from work? Yeah. So, like, that's in Japanese. If I said, John 知ってる? Hey, John って、仕事の? Yeah, John って. So, in Japanese, te is used after the name. So if I said, arete, or John te, in English we would say, like, and then the actual thing. So like from work, or like the thingy, like nani nani. I'll give you a few more examples. So if somebody says, Santa Barbara is cool at night, you mean like it's cold? No, I mean the night life is cool, like it's fun. Okay? So if somebody says Santa Barbara is cool, cool ってなんか楽しいみたい, or 涼しいとか? So in English, cool, you mean like it's fun, like あれ? So it's similar to te, okay? I'll give you an example in Japanese, and I'll try to say it in English. And again, the communication doesn't always translate exactly, but you would use it in the same situation. Okay? It might be a little different order, might be a little different reaction, but it's used in the same situation. Okay? So if I'm in the kitchen in Japan and my roommate comes home from the supermarket, and I said, like, tadaima okaeri, and I said, are katta? Are te, gomibukuro? Katta. Right? So I was waiting for him to bring home trash bags because he went shopping. And I said, did you get him? What? Like, like the trash bags? Yeah. Yeah. あれ買った? あれって? 何? ゴミ袋? Did you get them? Oh, like the trash bags? Oh, you mean the trash bags? So the same as you mean. それって you mean like. Okay? Okay. I hope you're still understanding. Another meaning of like is we use for like this or like that, which in Japanese you say ko, right? So when you say どうやってするの? こうして. How do I do that? Oh, you do it like this. You do it like that. Okay? And then we show you. So, for example, people knock, right? Knocking in different ways, right? So, in America, we knock like this, right? But in Japan, you knock like this, usually, right? So, you can say we knock like this, or you can say we knock like that. It doesn't really matter if you say like this or like that. But it's cool, and then you show it. If my friend has like some food, I would say, like you have something on your face, go like this. And I would say go like this. So when we tell somebody, or when we're using like this or like that, we usually use the verb go. We don't say do like this. I usually say go like this. Or my friend went like this. Like, こうした. こうして? こうした. Go like this. He went like this. I went like this. I went like that. Okay? I went like this. She went like that. Okay? So that's cool. All right? How do you clap? Oh, I clap like this. Or I clap like that. Okay? So we have a verb, we have similar to, we have a pause, we have you mean, we have ko. The next one, this part's a little bit tricky, but we also use like for something that somebody said or did or reacted. Okay? So what I mean here is we often say I was like, and then we show something. Okay? So you need to be able to say I was like, you were like, he was like, she was like, we were like, you guys were like, they were like, Daisuke was like, Jessica was like. So anybody's name was like. So, and we usually say this very quickly. So John was like, and I was like, John was like, and I was like. So John was like, I was like, becomes like one word, okay? So why do we do this? What does this mean? I was like, you were like, I was like, you were like. So said is for speech only. If I'm telling you about a conversation, I can say, oh, yesterday I saw my friend, and I said hello, and he said, hey, Patrick, how are you? And I said, and he said, and I said, that's fine, okay? I'm just telling you the speech. But if I'm telling you about something that was more than the speech, for example, let's say I was waving to him, or let's say I hugged him, I can't say, yesterday I saw my friend, and I said, or I said, because I'm not saying anything. That said is just for speech. So this is when we use was like. So was like is used for reactions, and we act out what happened or what was said rather than describe it. Okay? So if I want to tell you the story where I saw my friend yesterday and I said, or I was walking down the street and I thought I saw my friend and I was like, hey, and he was like, hey, and then I was like, oh, sorry, you're not my friend, I thought you were my friend. And he was like, oh, it's okay. I was like, he was like, I was like, he was like. And I would basically tell you that story by just showing you what I was like, and then what he was like, and then what I was like, and then what he was like. And I don't have to describe things, okay? So there's a lot of phrases in Japanese. For example, Japanese often say things like, びっくりした. But it doesn't translate to I was surprised. Meaning if I'm telling you a story in Japanese, right? Like my roommate surprises me. I'm on my computer and my roommate asks, もうびっくりしたみたい. I'd say, びっくりしたなんでそれ? And I would say びっくりした. In English, if that happened, and he came up and he surprised me, I'd be working on my computer, boom, shit, man. I was like, whoo! And I will tell him, I was like, whoo! And I will just show him how I felt, okay? So if he makes me laugh, I will say, I was like, what? I was like, ha! And I will just show that to him. I don't describe, I was laughing, or I was scared, or I was surprised, or I was confused, or I don't actually describe how I felt. I just show him how I felt, right? So, for example, if I'm in the supermarket and I have the money to give to the cashier, and then he's going to take it, but then he looks over here, and then I take it back, and he's confused, like, where's the money? And then he will say, did you give me the money? And I say, oh, no, sorry. He will say, oh, I was like, and he will show me his confusion, okay? He doesn't have to say, I was a little bit confused, or I didn't understand where the money, no, we don't explain it, okay? So we would say something like, I was like, what? And act surprised, okay? We act it out. You do this sometimes in Japanese. I notice when people, similar in Japanese, when they'll say like, tomotatta, when they're telling a story, and they're like, tomodachi nanka kou yutte, nanka watashi nanka mitai, and you'll say mitai, and you'll kind of show that, okay? That's what we do in English, and we use it more than we use said. I said, he said, I said, he said, because we want to show emotions, and we want to show reactions and gestures, okay? So it's very natural to tell a story with, I saw my friend, and I was like, hey, what's up? And he was like, pfft. And then I was like, what's wrong? And he was like, you didn't come to my party. And I was like, what? You had a party? And he was like, yeah. But I was and I just go back and forth. Okay? So, final note here, final few notes. You might not be comfortable acting out things because you don't do it in your Japanese character, but you should do it more in English or America, okay? And when you get used to it, it's actually much easier than trying to describe how you feel about things. I notice a lot of times Japanese people, when they're saying something and they have like a very natural conversation, and they're like, and then when I tell them, can you say that in English, they try to use all of the right verbs and adverbs and adjectives, and it's very hard to describe. And they say like, my friend said this, and I was very surprised and confused, and I said this, and it's just too hard to describe. Most of life you can't describe, but you can show, okay? Like, describe this photo. No, just show me the photo, okay? Another thing I want to mention here is that we use like a bit too much in our daily life, especially younger people, because what will happen is they will use all of the meanings of the verb and the I was like, and all of that together in one conversation, and it sounds kind of like really young or sometimes stupid. So don't overuse it, but as you watch people use this every day, you'll start to understand it, okay? So for example, if I'm telling a story where I saw my friend, right? So I have a guy friend and a girlfriend, and they were talking. And he said, Jessica, do you like me? And she said, yes, of course I like you. You're my friend. And he said, yes, but I mean, do you like me as more than a friend? Or do you just like me as a friend? And she said, oh, right? That's a simple, clear way to explain that situation. If I was a high school student in America, I would say, oh my gosh, like yesterday, so like I see my friend and he says to like Jessica, he says, Jessica, like, do you like me? And she's like, of course I like you, you're my friend. And he's like, no, but like, do you like me? Like, do you like me? And she's like, oh, like, you mean like, do I like you as more than a friend? And he's like, yeah. And that's how they would do the conversation. And you're like, you must got to do. But it's, man, you guys said the word like 40 times in 1 minute conversation. But that's really how they talk, okay? So try not to use it 40 times in one conversation, but you definitely should be using it every day in every conversation because that's just how we talk. Okay, so there we go. Please like this video. Please subscribe. Please share. The more subscriptions I get and the more views and shares and comments that I get, the easier it is to make more videos and the more my videos spread. So please click on the subscribe button on the bottom. Thanks. Have a nice day, guys.